Good afternoon, Royce. I will no longer be able to appear on your show. You have framed the past couple of weeks for Trump as, quote, victories, which in my opinion is repugnant. I have reported on the most immoral, vituperative, and diametrically authoritarian actions this administration has taken since day one. And in the prior administration, I am a journalist, but also a human with a moral compass. My response: okay then, victories for Trump are not necessarily victories for the American people, but good luck to you. Blocked. Now, first of all, somebody who goes as far as to use the words vituperative and diametrically authoritarian all in a row must have a very small penis. Very small. And the fact that he blocked me after I wrote what I just read to you is absurd. I tried to reach out to this nudnik because I was trying to have moderate discourse. And here's a guy that's on, first of all, he's not a journalist, okay? He's a content creator at best, okay? But I'm trying to have a conversation with different people, and I'm talking to people, who were much more in it than I am. And then there was a guy like this. He was below us on the leaderboard, which is not a big deal, but I was kind of looking up and I was looking down, and I was like, here's a guy, he's doing his thing. And I'm not advocating for Trump, but if you're a journalist, which you're not, neither am I, then you would be like, oh, okay, clearly Trump has gotten some wins. But if you can't be objective enough to even say that or acknowledge that, then you've got something wrong. And if this represents anything as far as the Democrat Party is concerned, then it's beyond repair. Beyond repair. Because listen, I'm the kind of guy that obviously upsets the right and the left, which means you're getting some truth. But that's absurd. That's absurd. And you're lumping me in with Trump supporters? I'm not a Trump supporter. But those are victories. Trump has had a string of victories this week. So needless to say, not only is this guy not coming on the podcast, all right, but then Keena, because it's July 4th, I booked this guy a week ago. He waits till 2 hours before the show to make his decision. So either he was at a barbecue and needed an excuse and isn't even really this passionate, okay, or he truly is that weak of a human being, Jeremiah, that you can't even come on and have a conversation. I wasn't even looking to have a persuasive dialogue or even dare I say a debate. I was looking to let you talk. I was like, oh, I'll introduce somebody to my audience. Now, here's the secret. I didn't watch one stupid video of his. I just saw his name and reached out to him. And then when he messaged me back instantly, okay, and I said, what's your availability for Friday, not realizing it's the 4th, he responds with 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. What a window. I wonder why it's wide open. Douchebag. So then Keena, in her infinite wisdom, goes, well, I'm trying to get you some guests, so I reached out to Chuck E. Cheese. I'm like, so this is your counter? This is counter programming? We couldn't get Jeremiah, but we got Charles E. Cheese. We didn't book him, but imagine we can't even get him. He's like, oh, listen, I don't really like the way that you... Like when Charles E. Cheese is telling you that you're too moderate, then maybe you have lost the plot. So stay tuned. We'll find out really where we stand when we hear back from Chuck E. Cheese. Thank you, Keena. And I don't know if you can hear the sound in the background, okay, but this is going to segue into my next topic. It sounds like, honestly, it sounds like somebody's going to the bathroom nonstop, number one over there, but it's the fish tank. And I got this pump in the fish tank, and you may say, oh, you have fish? No. But I keep this fakakta fish tank going for this interactive will it float stuff. I don't feel like emptying the water. I got the pump. I'm running water in a fish tank with a pump for nothing. You may not even be able to hear it because of the nature of this microphone, but I can hear it, so I feel the need to comment on it. But I'm working on all this interactive stuff. I mean, I've been working on so much stuff these last few days. And I'm so excited to get to this next level of interactive stuff where it's not just the parks, but it's cutting between the parks to packaged videos or pre-recorded videos to being at home and doing a cooking live, a baking live, whatever it may be, Legos, Fortnite, whatever it is. I love the idea of turning this whole operation into a multi-faceted, interactive facility. And for some reason, I don't have any fish in the fish tank. And now you know the reason. But I had to, look, I have to get this off my chest about this Jeremiah. Because, if you've read anything I've written on Substack, you get my 2 cents on TikTok, right? And where I see the value for me with TikTok is that I've got an audience there, and not everybody, but some people will follow me elsewhere, and I'm trying to get everybody everywhere. Substack's become the hub. Twitch is invaluable. Okay, YouTube is there, and I'm going to rebrand the YouTube. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the idea that I can stream from the parks on all of them, and I've got this software coming, and the fact that I can do all this and make it all work for me and level up is so much more important to me than chasing the gifting or feeding the TikTok of it all. I've got this much bigger problem to solve for myself. And these last 4 months, maybe even 5 months, whatever it is now, have been such an education, and I've been able to really refine my workflow. So all of that to say, I came out of the election kind of wanting to sort of recalculate and reevaluate, part of it with the future of TikTok, which is still in limbo, but a lot of it having to just do with the future of what I'm doing and feeling good about what I'm doing. So I'm trying to pivot to having these more valuable conversations. We started having these radio call-in shows. I was doing them 3 mornings in a row, and I love doing it. But when only 2 or 3 people are calling in, I'm vamping. And I don't want to vamp for hours when I'm trying to have real guests come on. So it's finding the balance, and Substack helps with that. But I'm trying to get away from just being Disney, and I've gotten away from it for quite some time. I think I've done a really good job despite not having to rebrand. So here I am over on Substack trying to do something completely different, and it's just like, you know what? Everybody's the same. And that's my excuse. But it's just like, oh my God, dude. First of all, you're not a journalist. You're a content creator. And even then, you're not a good content creator because you're not even willing to make content. And I don't have to, and by the way, that's not me just throwing rocks at the guy. His schedule was wide open on July 4th, 10 to 7. Now mine was too, but I filled it. He was sitting around telling people no. Now that's also there's great value in telling people no, so good for him. I got to respect the fact that he draws the line somewhere. But then don't call yourself a journalist. And also do your homework before you agree. I didn't look you up. I mean, I just hit your face. It clicked on your stupid face on the leaderboard. And I was like, oh, all right, this kid's trying to do his thing. I'll give him a voice. Like, not that I'm anybody, but it's just sort of like, I've got an audience, you've got an audience. Let's cross-pollinate. I'm not looking to agree. I'm looking to have a conversation. And if we're masquerading as journalists, then let's have a conversation. Tell me what you see, and I'll tell you what I see. But I was more interested in hearing his perspectives. I had notes. And then I wanted to run an errand, and I was like, no, let me wait, get, focus. And, I take these interviews, if I'm going to sit down and talk to somebody, I take the time seriously. And no. So nonetheless, it's like even trying in this bubble. And then he blocked me. And I'm like, really, dude? We're on Substack. You're blocking me. I didn't come at you. Now I want to bite your head off purely for the entertainment value. The water in the background just stopped. Now, again, I don't know if you can actually hear it, but I can hear it. So I got to give you a little play-by-play. So all of this to say that I was supposed to have a guest today, and there's a lot to unpack, and I wanted to get some perspectives on from other people, and I'm trying to balance the Substack AM coffee, which is on a Sunday morning, a lot of audio on Sundays, and then, of course, this podcast, which is pre-recorded, but I'm trying to figure out what to do where and when. And now that I'm not going to have a guest today, I'm like, well, let me save some of this for the conversation with the audience tomorrow. And I like doing the Substack audio lives because I like being able to read the comments. Not everybody wants to call in. So in many ways, it does replace that call-in radio show. And maybe we'll bring back that radio show, but people need to feel comfortable to have the conversation first, and that was the problem with that is, and I don't want to name names, but there were 2 or 3 people that were calling all the time, and God bless them because they were trying to help me out. But it's not, the onus should never be on any 1 or 2 people. And what I really love about Substack is you can see how the collective engagement really does pay dividends on the leaderboard. And that doesn't involve monetization. And I'm not on Substack to make money. A lot of people are. So anyway, I try to do a good thing, have this kid on. And then here's what really drives me crazy. And I mean, you know what? I mean, at this point, we're beyond real talk. It's all real talk. But I mean, the kid is black. Okay? He's a black kid. And you can say, well, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? I'm going to tell you what it has to do with the price of tea in China. I worked on Barack Obama's campaign. You don't know anything about me, buddy. You and your false sense of politics and your progressive, because I'm assuming now with his reaction that he's super progressive. So you don't even like the president that you probably think, should, be the model for the next Democrat president is a guy that I worked tirelessly to get elected. And all your virtue signaling bullshit doesn't hold a candle to what I did in the 2008 campaign as a volunteer field organizer. I moved up to Henderson, Nevada for months. I moved for months, and I lived there as a volunteer organizer, and I worked my butt off to get Obama elected. Now, I would have done the same for anybody that I was that passionate about. There was a lot of things going on with the Obama campaign that really spoke to people. Change is generally the one big thing. Change is what gets it done, which is what will be interesting. What I wanted to talk to this nudnik about, okay, is I wanted to talk to him about this idea that if Trump has these victories, whether you agree with them or not, okay, it's a different conversation. But if Trump is actually getting his agenda done and America is in turn, quote, great again, then they need a new boogeyman. And while this may leave an opening for the Democrats, it certainly doesn't mean they're going to seize the opportunity. And it almost makes me question, and you can see cracks in this now, but it almost makes me question if the boogeyman comes from within. You've seen the cracks with Elon. Okay, there's definitely some heat coming out of Bucks County with the opposition to the big, beautiful bill. But it got through anyway. All right. And then in classic Trump style, it gets through. And then it's like, we'll sell it to the people later, because that's the way Trump works, right? Everything with Trump is people scrambling around him to pick up the pieces and make it work after the fact. That is just the bull in the china shop way that the man chooses to operate his entire life. That's how he's operated. I'm not even sure it's a choice. I think it's just in his blood. All right. So all of these things to say is here I am having an opportunity to talk to somebody, and I'm trying to move on from this, but I wanted to talk to somebody and get some real perspective on this. And he seemed like a younger guy. And he just for me, just seemed like the perfect person to talk to. And then it's like, dude, I'm like, I couldn't be more of like an ally for like your plight. I couldn't be more of an ally for your plight. That's my only point in bringing up race. But I'm not going to wear it as some sort of virtue badge. I'm not going to wear it that way. But it's just the damn truth. Absolutely absurd. I do appreciate the fact that the water is running again in the background. It's very soothing because I'm very upset about this. Not really, but I gotta fill this podcast. And if I just sit here and I don't have an opinion about it and just pretend like it doesn't bother me, but it only bothers me to the extent that this is why the Democrats are failing miserably. Okay, so it goes back to this question of if America is now great, and the question came to me when I saw Trump wearing the USA hat, which I liked. Because I don't like the propaganda hat. I don't like the golden calf. But I like the patriotism. So the USA hat makes me think, well, if the mission is truly accomplished, which, oh my gosh, the irony of having that phrase come out of my mouth a few weeks after using it in the context of Iran, which is still TBD, okay, which is a horrible way to sum things up. But in this fast-paced culture, that's as much time as we have for that topic. And So again, I see the hat and I go, well, all right. So if you're getting all these things done, you have this massive legislative win. If you're getting all these things done, then you can't run on making America great again. It's time to spice up your kitchen with Pampered Chef. Pampered Chef has all the goodies from spatulas, mandolins, and amazing pots and pans. not to mention knives. Plus, don't miss out on small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and coffee maker. Spice up your kitchen today. Go to pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. And with no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, and an incomplete or divided estate and legal fights and fees. If you live in Florida, contact RK Law for a free consultation to discuss the options you have and the tools available to protect your home, savings, and estate for those you love the most. To get started, send an email to russell@rklawpro.com or call 786-566-2456 to set up your consultation today. That's russell@rklawpro.com. And if you're in the market for a 3D printer, visit flashforge.com. With printers starting at under $300, you can begin your 3D adventures today. Visit flashforge.com. And while you're online, head over to Etsy and the Theme Park Factory. The Theme Park Factory on Etsy is a great way to support this channel. Pick up a Joe Coconut and bring a little bit of the Theme Park Factory to your home. You've got to run on something else. It might be continuing to keep America great. Like, how do you rebrand that? Like now, if it's just a brand and not a movement, then maybe you don't rebrand it because the brand's too valuable. But if it's a movement, then it's got to evolve. And then the question becomes, where does the opposition lie? Because if the Democrats aren't even really good opposition, then it may be from within, and it may be the people that don't go along. It may be the Fitzpatricks and the people that didn't vote. Was really only two of them in that case, but anybody that doesn't go along with the president and his movement. I had to bite my tongue. There was a couple jokes I could have made there, and I'm going to opt to make none of them. So that's the question I want to explore, or at least I wanted to explore, particularly with this guy, because I thought it was interesting. It's like, all right, well, what happens when you've become and also what happens when you become the deep state, right? Trump railed against the deep state, railed against the swamp and all these things. You're second-term president. You have this massive, massive legislative win. The Supreme Court's handing you victories. All right. You have these perceived wins with the war with Iran and the Middle East. I mean, like, you can't not. How do you? I mean, I guess you can, because this guy didn't acknowledge it. But how do you not? How do you just look at this and not take it for what it is? Whether you like it or not, the guy is getting the things done that he set out to accomplish. Now, you don't have to like them, but just to acknowledge them, okay? Because if you're a quote-unquote journalist, again, you're not, then you would have that conversation. But the question that I'm still trying to get to the bottom of, and I don't have the answers, and I'm talking about it here, and I've probably already talked about it on the Substack by the point you're listening to this, but I'm just trying to figure out who becomes the new boogeyman. See, Trump is the boogeyman for the Democrats, and he will continue to be the boogeyman as long as he's around in politics. How they choose to use him is a different story. See, I'm of the mindset that they love Trump. The Democrats love Trump because A, they used to before he ever got into politics. Everybody did. He was giving everybody money. All right, but he's the perfect boogeyman. He's the perfect foil. So like they use Trump for a variety of ways, but if they really got rid of Trump, they wouldn't have such a strong thing to use as the boogeyman. So if America becomes great, and the idea that the Biden administration, again, not my ideas, and not my thoughts, but if you're like, oh, the failed policies of the Biden administration are no more, we are rectifying the situation, it'll take some time for things to click, but we got through this bill. And we're just getting these victories everywhere, and we're dealing with the border, and we're trying to tackle immigration. And again, I don't like the way they're handling any of this. I mean, the ICE raids is a whole other thing. I mean, I could get into that, but that's a conversation I'd love to have with somebody who's more educated on these things than I. Much like the contents of the bill, like I'm very careful about what I talk about, because if I really don't have any knowledge of it, then I try to really, really not say more than I should. There's no reason to pretend like you know when you don't. That's why I posted what I posted about the bill the way I did, to provide information and context without trying to opine. Sounds very journalistic, but I'm not a journalist. So at least I know it. So I had all these thoughts because, again, the Trump admin is having all these wins, and I'm just very fascinated how that evolution takes place, and not just in the context of politics, but really in the context of any anti-establishment sort of thing that becomes the very thing that it once railed against. I always think of Howard Stern. Howard was anti-establishment, railed against IMUS, railed against the system, and he became the very thing that he used to rail against, that he used to go way hard against. I mean, he used to rip into people, the very type of person that he became. And now I'm not even knocking it. It's just the natural evolution of success. When you become a caricature. You become a caricature of yourself. And I can think of 100 other examples in our culture where this has happened. It happened with Colonel Sanders. That didn't start as a serious thing. It started off as a joke. Next thing you know, he's wearing the suits. People are calling him Colonel, and it's legit. So it's and that's not quite anti-establishment, but the point is the same, right? Is when you start off, when you reach a certain level of success and you become the very antithesis of it's almost inevitable that you become the very antithesis of what you were when you started, and that is the natural arc. So Trump, to go back to that, Trump and the MAGA movement now are the establishment. Not only do they inherit all of the policy, all of the fallout, potential fallout, that's not me being objective, that's me thinking it's not going to work. Obviously, that's an opinion. But let's see how this plays out. Whatever transpires, it's now officially on his watch. Okay, and I don't know what else he's going to set out to accomplish legislatively for the rest of his administration, because he doesn't have much time left on the clock as far as the midterms go, because that's how fast politics moves in this country. He just spent all of that capital. But what else does he really need to get done right now? Anything else he really wants to get done, I guess he just rubber stamps with an EO. But again, when Trump is done, okay, we're not even talking midterms. We're just talking broader. We're talking beyond Trump, beyond MAGA. What does that look like, and who is the enemy? And I think it comes from within. I think you see that already when Scott Pressler starts railing against Bucks County because he didn't like the fact that Fitzpatrick put in a no vote on that, on the big beautiful bill. He didn't like that. So now you're against us. Now you're the enemy. So now we're going to do whatever we can to eradicate you. But the problem I have with that is that now you're talking about Bucks County, and Bucks County decides elections. So is it really wise for Scott Pressler to be going after Bucks County? Now, I understand that he's not going after Bucks County. He's going to go after seats. Okay. But that's still going after Bucks County. We'll be curious. It'll be curious to see how once this bill starts to kick in, not just how things shake out, but how it actually affects the future of the MAGA movement. And I'm actually kind of fascinated by that because, again, whether you like it or not, Trump has had a massive 2 weeks of successes, okay, which could be really, really bad for a lot of people and most likely will be. But what does it mean for a movement that was based on things are broken, they must be fixed? Well, if you fixed them now what do? You need a new boogeyman. So that's the game of politics. That's the theater of politics. And I'm sure you don't really even want to talk about politics, but here we are, right? I also want to talk about Rivers of America, going from politics to staying on theme there with the Rivers of America going away. Tomorrow's the last day or today, whenever you're listening, or it's already closed, depending on when you're listening. And I don't know how I feel about actually being there for it. I don't think I need to. I don't think I need to go eulogize it. I thought about all the different things I could do and the content I could create, and I'm past it. I don't even feel like doing it. I got other things to focus on. So it's sad. I'd like to think that based off of the little bit of changes we've seen to artwork, that they're going to preserve the sight lines and they're going to keep Liberty Square and Frontierland so we can preserve that front-facing side of the river, and it just feels like Tom Sawyer Island is there, but it's no longer an island. If they can keep all of that in check, I think we're going to be okay enough. Okay enough. But I don't know. I don't know if that's what they're truly going to do. And I worry about Liberty Square. Hall of Presidents is open. I'd really love to go see that. So maybe I will go. And by the time that you hear this, I may have already, it may be in the past. So I'm sitting here talking to you about it because, again, we're pre-recorded. That's what a podcast is. But I still, in this moment, don't know if I'm going to do it. I know that I don't need to. And I know that I don't want to get caught up in all the content and the content creators of it all. And I just would rather it's done. It's, you know what I mean? And then see how it transpires. I'm more concerned about preserving the sight lines to keep enough of the river to keep Liberty Square intact. They're already decimating Frontierland. Tiana's Bayou Adventure doesn't fit in there thematically. And this Frontierland they're doing doesn't fit. I think that's Josh's term, but thanks. And we'll see. We'll see. As long as they preserve the sight lines, I'll be okay with it. It's losing Liberty Square and losing all of that is really problematic. I have a huge issue with the fact that patriotism has become politicized. And look, part of the thing about the Republican Party, or at least the people that got Trump elected this last time, is, again, they've become the big tent party. So they are the party of the country at the moment, whether you like it or not, because they won. Okay, and then you have to ask yourself, what does this country really look like? What does this country really, really look like? And it's the answer is not going to always be easy. But I can tell you this. In a game of two-party politics, it's just a pendulum that swings. So this may be what the country looks like now, but it'll go back the other way. And that's actually the real issue. Okay. And that's why I do like the idea of a third party. I can't believe it's Elon, but I also can believe it's Elon who wants to get it done. We'll see what that looks like. I maintain there's a lot of people out there who could really, I almost use the phrase unionize, but there's a lot of people that come to mind that could coalesce and that could really create a third party. I don't know if I want to start rattling off who. I think I want to save that conversation for some of those people. But there are people that have some real pull politically that I think could get it done if that's what Elon wanted to do. That excites me. And I've gone back and forth on that. You want to talk about a pendulum, because I used to, when I was younger, I used to be all about third party. And now I'm more like, well, fix the parties before you add a third party. But then I'm also like, if you got a guy like this who can actually get it done, then seize the moment, because these parties are beyond repair. So that's the inevitable pivot of it all, right? You sort of, if you have the opportunity to do it, and if Elon really is going to step up at the midterms, now he says he's going to go up against anybody that voted for this bill. We'll see how that happens, or how that goes down, because that's a lot of money. So he certainly can afford it, but I doubt he's going to do all that. So let's see. It may just be more of a broader, hey, I'm going to start this party and then let people build it up and have PACs and all that, and not be all his capital. But I could see him leading that charge. Look, you need an innovator for that. And I'm not an Elon. I was going to say I'm not the biggest Elon fan. I'm not an Elon fan. I've never been an Elon fan prior to politics, anything. I don't have issues with Tesla. I have investments in Tesla, but I'm not a big fan of Elon. I don't think Elon is half the genius he wishes he was. And I think he's got a lot of hubris, which is necessary. And, a lot of times in this world, the reason people succeed isn't because they're the best. It's because they actually get off their butt and get things done. And he's a hustler in every sense of the word. He's a hustler. So I can respect it, but also not really care for the guy. But if this is something he's truly going to take up a third party, I'm all for it. And when he's done with that, let him buy the Walt Disney Company. Let him go on a tear. I'm just at that point, And again, I'm going right back to the top. this guy, like, I'm a moderate-minded individual when it comes to politics. When I love this country as much as this country drives me up a wall and I can't stand it, right? Like, I'm literally, I have my namesake died in the war. My grandfather was a disabled veteran. And I saw firsthand how bad the VA was. So I care about these things that often get lumped in with being conservative, but I am not a conservative and I am certainly not a liberal. And this experience with this kid just reinforces it. And I've said some things on this podcast that you're not supposed to say, but I'm going to say whatever I need to say because it's all truth. Take it or leave it. That's it. That's all I got. We'll get into the real meat of it all on the Substack. So if you are catching this and that's already up, then go catch that. Or if that's already up and you're catching this, hello again. But we're trying to get it done on both fronts. I really do look forward to talking to guests. The whole concept of Under the Influence was talking to guests, all about talking to guests, okay? I really want to get under the hood of different people of influence, whether we're talking about content creators, politicians, business leaders, whoever it may be. I will close on the Diddy thing. I do want to briefly talk about that in case I don't get to it on Substack. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. But also in a weird way, not surprised at all. I guess I thought in many ways he was going to get hit with all the charges or none. The mixed bag was kind of a weird thing. And then on top of it, I mean, when it's all said and done, how much time is he really going to do? And then you got to look at the man's history. And I believe he's complicit in Biggie's death. To what extent he's complicit in Pac's death, I don't know. Those are rabbit holes you can go down. They really are. They really are. Pac had his suspicions when he was shot in the studio in New York. I think he claims Puffy was there. And I don't want to go too into that without having prepped. But that's a whole thing. You can go down the whole. I mean, and then there's the ramparts and everything else in LA and the police gangs. And there's just a lot to all of that. So I just feel like Puffy has gotten away with a lot over the years. But I also feel like if Puffy is truly an informant, then maybe all of this was just, a way for the government to get their hands on Compromat and take out Puffy's leverage. And then you can go back to the whole thing with Ciroc and there was the lawsuits and there's again, the rabbit holes that I'm not so sure I want to get into right now. So you have to ask yourself, what was the real motivation here? Was the idea just to take his power and his Compromat? Maybe it was. It's weird. It's not only a broken system that we know what we know, and this because they over leveraged, they overextended themselves with. And I'm not a legal analyst, but anybody will tell you that they overreached. All right, how are you going to claim some of those charges, but you're only pointing to one guy? I mean, it's almost like you went in to fail on purpose. Well, what is it? RICO charges, trafficking charges. They're saying that he was running an enterprise and that and again, I want to be careful that I don't say the wrong thing, but they're basically inferring that this man was running an operation, but didn't really have they weren't charging anybody else. They were only going after him. So it just makes me feel like this was more about taking information away from him, taking away his power, smacking him down for being a bad informant. And I could be completely wrong. What do I know? But that's what I'm starting to feel like it was, is like, oh, you know what? All right. You flew a little too close to the sun. This is your punishment. You'll get, when it's all said and done, you'll get your life back. But now you know who's really in charge. Okay. And you no longer have power over the people that you had power over with all these tapes because the government has them now. It's kind of the Epstein thing, and you can say, oh, this is conspiracy theory. I think it's more conspiracy. There's not a lot of theory here. A lot of this is just rooted in truth. You just got to read up. That's enough of this nonsense, and I'll see you next time.